Hey, Church Pastors Note Time. I hope this finds you well. As I speak to you at the moment, the Hopkins family are down with COVID, all of them. Thankfully, not too serious at this point in time, just flu-like symptoms, and I'm in isolation. I was exposed, spent some time with Grant on Thursday doing some prep work for our Connect groups. And so I've got to be in isolation until I find out whether I have or have not got this blasted disease. And so I think this is the season when it is cutting very close to home for many of us. Almost all of us have lost friends or family members, and it is just a very real reality that we'll be living with until the vaccine comes out. So obviously there were some announcements made by President Ramaphosa last night that will shift some things. We are allowed some religious gatherings, but small ones. And so we are thinking and praying together about how we can create some space for us to gather as community and worship. And so please do watch this space. In the next week, we'll be talking more about this. We're not sure that this is going to be any bigger than this, that 50 may be the limitation for the foreseeable future. And so we're really going to have to think and pray quite carefully about how do we do church going on, because church is not something that you simply watch. It's something that you participate in. It is a community, and we want to do that. It's one of the deep concerns that we have as your leaders, that the online system has been really phenomenal in a bunch of ways, but we are disconnected from other people, and we cannot grow well in our faith without others speaking into our lives and nurturing us along. So a whole bunch of things that I need to talk to you about, just some announcements out of the life of the church. Firstly, this Sunday, we will be doing online communion, so please do have some grape juice or wine and some bread ready. We did this a lot during lockdown. We want to do it again and celebrate the reality of Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. And so this Sunday, we will be celebrating communion. Then Lent is coming up. It's the 40 days before Easter, and it's a journey towards the cross. It is a time to draw a little bit out of our regular rhythm, and so we're going to be putting a devotional together. We're in the process of doing that. We will send that out on all our various social media platforms, and we're asking you to come journey with us, to slow down and to be reminded of all that Jesus did and accomplished for us on the cross. We're going to be having a congregational meeting, thirdly, and that coincides with the start of Lent. It'll be an online Zoom meeting. Talk a little bit about what's happening in 21, some of the realities that we're going to be facing, and some of the plans that we have for 2021. There are a couple of congregational practicalities we have to look at. We have to approve the budget, and there are some questions around elders that we need to address, and those have to be done in a congregational meeting. And so that will all be done on that date. We will send all that information again out on WhatsApp and on email to you. And we will then celebrate on that evening as well, the start of Lent. Next thing that I want to tell you about is about these care packages. The healthcare workers have worked extraordinarily hard and continue to work extraordinarily hard over the season. And so we're putting together these little care packages. There's a whole lot of information on the website about them. There are all sorts of little goodies, very simple little gifts just to remind the healthcare workers how much we love and appreciate them and all the work that we've put in. This is a great way to simply bless people who have really been on the front lines and have been serving incredibly hard, and to simply say to them, we esteem you, we love you, we value the work that you've put in. And so if you and your family would like to be part of this very simple way to be gospel people, please go check out our website. All the information is there, and it'll be really helpful for you to do that. Finally, it's been a tough season financially for many. One of the communities that we are deeply invested into is the domestic workers that live in the valley. Several times over the last couple of years, we've addressed just how do we talk about domestic workers, how do we pay them, how do we treat them? And I believe it was just time to do this again. And so in closing out this video, I'm going to hand over to Candice, who directly has been interfacing with the domestic workers for the last 5 or 6 years in the life of the church. She has a real finger on the pulse of what's happening. And I think what she's going to share with us is profoundly helpful. So please take the few minutes to watch, to listen, and to make sure that you're blessing your domestic workers as best as you're able to in what is a difficult season for all of us. Friends, this is going to be a tough season, but we are convinced that all of these things will ultimately produce in us the kind of character Jesus wants us to be. And so let's just be vulnerable to him and to what he wants to accomplish in the season. We long for it all to end, but don't long too much. Perhaps you need to start saying, I'm going to be in this. What is God going to be teaching me? And so let's just rest, I suppose, in the midst of all of this chaos, knowing that it is ultimately in Jesus' hands, and he is sovereign and he rules and reigns over all things. So God bless you guys, and we'll see you Sunday online.
Hey church, One thing that this COVID period has taught me about myself is I'm terrible at housework. During this wave 2 peak, we've decided, like many of you have, that our domestic worker will stay at home for her sake and for our sake. And it's been rough, having to juggle doing all the housework and working and all the other responsibilities. I know many of you, like me, are under strain. And many are also struggling financially. One or both have lost their jobs or have been put on short time. And it really is a difficult time. This parable, I was reflecting this week on the parable of the workers in the vineyard. And it really, speaks to this situation. We often over-spiritualize this passage, but it has a direct application to the situation today. So the parable goes that this landowner goes into the marketplace to gather people together to go and work in his vineyard. And he gathers enough people together and he agrees to pay them 1 denarius, which at that time was a good wage. It was a living wage. And later he goes into the marketplace and he sees that not everybody has been hired, not everybody has been offered work. So he gathers a few more people together and says they can also work in his vineyard, and he offers to pay them what is right. And then near the end of the day, as the sun is starting to set, he goes back into the marketplace and he sees there are still some people that hadn't yet been offered work. So he says, go and work in my vineyard. Doesn't offer to pay them anything. And then at the end of the day, when the workers gather, he pays them their wages. The servant pays them the wages. And he pays them all the same. He pays them all a good wage, a living wage, no matter whether they worked from the beginning of the day or whether they just arrived an hour before the end. And that just really speaks to me in this situation. Our domestic workers might not be working. They might be sitting at home. I know our domestic worker sends me pictures of the vegetable patch she's busy growing. And it might seem unfair that we're carrying all the burden of the work, yet we're still paying our domestic workers. And I encourage you to please continue paying your domestic workers. Just this week they released statistics on what the basic costs of a basket cost. It's over 4,000 rand. Some basic staples like rice, flour, bread have seen price hikes of up to 68%. Please, if you can, and I realize everybody's financial situation is different, but if you are able, please continue to pay your domestic workers their full wage. And for those that do have, would like to care for their domestic workers in other ways, and I've been asked many times, what can I do to care for my domestic worker? So Renew Trust has got 2 ways in which you can support and help your domestic worker. The first is we've been able to get a group scheme, a group medical scheme for Renew Trust, which includes all of your domestic workers. They're considered to be part of Renew Trust's activities. So if you're paying your domestic worker less than 20,000 Rand per month, they qualify. And it costs 360 Rand per month, which includes funeral cover, unlimited GP visits, etc. And if you only have your domestic worker for 1 day a week, we're very happy to share that with you or to share it with the domestic workers' other employers. So if you want to know more information, just contact the church at info@ProteValleyChurch or myself. And another way in which, if your domestic worker's got children that are thinking about what they're going to be doing after school, encourage them to study further. Different trades or university education. We've got a lot of students who we are sponsoring at the moment. And if you are able, you can contribute part or, if possible, all of the fees. And if you do it through Renew Trust, you get the tax back. You get that benefit of a tax deduction. Again, if you're interested, want to know more, just contact me or the church office at info@ProteValleyChurch.org. God bless you all.